Thank you for listening to podcast West Seattle Pandemic Diaries, Vol.11. My name is Andrew. Each week we check in with someone in the neighborhood about how the pandemic has changed their world. This week it's Lora Radford from the West Seattle Junction Association.
We went a little Mad Max and just took that parking so people could immediately pivot into curbside.
We also see how our family's quarantine's going.
Oh, well, I miss True Value. The Junction True Value is
This is podcast West Seattle Pandemic Diaries. As of this recording, it has been 77 days since our family went into isolation. There are 4 of us in the house, me, my wife Elizabeth, and the kids, Felix and Alice. We mostly stay at home or at Grandma and Grandpa's condo. We continue to cook at home more than we did pre-pandemic, including grilling out on Memorial Day. But we've also been thinking about West Seattle's main business district, the Junction, and the gravity it exerts on all of West Seattle. We've purchased from several Junction businesses since the quarantine began.
West Seattle Fish Company, West 5, Great American Diner, Falafel Salam, Bakery Nouveau.
Pickup order?
Yes.
What's the name?
Andrew?
Do you need a copy of your receipt?
No thanks.
Curious Kid Stuff, Maono, Mashiko.
We're still missing some of our regular spots. So what place at the Junction do you think you miss the most?
Probably Husky Deli.
Why? What do they have at Husky Deli?
They have ice cream.
And some we have been getting quite a bit.
Oh, Pagliacci.
Forgot about that. Every Friday night we have pizza from our favorite pizza place.
Grandma and Grandpa live right at the Junction,
About 3 blocks south of the Junction.
but quarantine has kept them almost entirely away.
Once this morning, we walked to Jefferson Square. We walked from there to the actual Junction and north a couple of blocks and then back. That was our walk today.
These are folks who love supporting small businesses.
Oh, well, I miss True Value. The Junction True Value is where ordinarily I would be there, if not every day, every other day.
But it's harder to do during the pandemic. To find out more about West Seattle's evolving relationship with its small business center, I spoke with Lora Radford at the West Seattle Junction Association.
I'm doing well. I mean, it's been an interesting couple of months.
Back in March, when bars and restaurants were ordered to close, there was little time for shock. Merchants had to move fast if they wanted to stay viable.
It was one of those times in your life where, you have these moments and you'll just never forget them. It was one of those moments where we heard the announcement and we probably took about half an hour to absorb what the impact was going to be on the district. And then we immediately went into mobilization mode and discussed very quickly the best possible thing we could do to help the merchants at that particular moment. And so it was a unified, let's get as many signs as we can out on California Avenue, and then let's go ahead and start an immediate messaging chain. And we haven't stopped. The very first thing we did is we reallocated all of our A-boards that we could find and developed 15-minute parking on California Avenue. I'll be the first to admit that we went a little Mad Max and just took that parking so people could immediately pivot into curbside. And then once we had that project completed, we moved immediately into messaging, which included those large 18 by 24 posters.
Like so many people I've talked to, Lora has seen much good come from this extremely challenging time.
The beauty of the kindness of the human spirit really came forth. And I'll give you some examples of that. The West Seattle Eagles, they immediately began cooking free meals for the community. The West 5, they partnered with the Senior Center, and they now deliver free meals through the Senior Center to seniors who are now housebound, and obviously part of the most vulnerable population there is due to COVID-19. And just seeing that multiplied over and over and over again has been inspiring. It really has. When we first looked at how we were going to economically survive this, you may remember that the SBA, the intention was in the right place, but to get out the EIDL, the emergency funding, and the Paycheck Protection Program, in the haste to get it out, there were a lot of delays and flaws, and so the business owners had zero income coming into their businesses. So we pivoted into that and created the West Seattle Small Business Relief Fund, a grassroots fund that we just opened up and hoped that if a few $100s came in, a couple $1,000s, that we could pass through to the small business owners, and not just in the Junction, but throughout all of West Seattle. It would give them hope. Well, it's incredible. In under 60 days, we're almost at $100,000. And just an aside, it's on our website. And so my thoughts to the community and to the business owners is hope and gratitude. And it's been the West Seattle community neighbors and the West Seattle community that has kept us going day after day.
And with all these unprecedented changes comes the possibility of a new way forward.
When we talked about in the very beginning what normal looks like, people were saying, well, we can't wait to get back to normal. But I think that as we've moved through this as a society, not only in West Seattle, but way beyond us, we've discovered that perhaps normal wasn't great. And so what we found is once we were left looking at each other and thinking, okay, what do we need to do to help each other? We have moved into delivering parcels and packages and food to the doorsteps of people in West Seattle. And the amount of people that have come out and asked us, what can we do? Just tell us. What can we do? We're here for you. It's been inspiring. We're just on the cusp of waiting to hear from the governor, as everyone is, whether or not businesses can move into phase 2. We, at this point, are just holding the best we can. Let's see, never know what the day is going to give us.
Thank you, Lora. You can find more information about the West Seattle Junction Association by visiting them online at wsjunction.org. That's all for this episode of Podcast West Seattle Pandemic Diaries. Have a comment or an idea for the show? Send us a message on Facebook at Podcast West Seattle. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast and tell your podcast listening friends about the show. We will be back next week with another intriguing perspective of pandemic life in West Seattle. Until then, stay home and stay healthy.